And I am Tristan Merriam.
And this is The Colorist,
a podcast about colour and its influence on our lives.
So I want to talk about Rodmell. That's my main colour. Rodmell is a purple. And I have two other purple type colours. That's the only word you can use for them. One is Old Violet. I love Old Violet. And the other one is a new colour, very excited to announce. And it's colour we've had in our wall paint, and now we've just brought it into being a chalk paint. Yay!
And that is Tyrian Plum.
Tyrian Plum, exactly. Wonderful. Now, you should be asking me now, why did you call it Tyrian Plum?
Well, purple is a funny old colour, isn't it? And the reason I gasp is because it's a colour that evokes quite strong opinions from people. It's kind of Marmite. It's a love or hate. It can be used very badly, actually. And, you know, off air, as it were, we've been talking about the word purple, which kind of conjures up this weird...
It's got all sorts of connotations. And I think they're rather sad in a way because it stops it being used. Mm-hmm. My theory is that people don't like purple because it's used often in cheap plastics. Mm-hmm. So lots of toys in this really nasty purpley
synthetic
colour.
Kind of, not the raw pigment of it.
Yeah, because it's an elegant, wonderful colour.
It is, but we need to get away from the word purple, but that's the only way of describing them and categorising them.
Yeah.
And obviously, you haven't used the word purple. You've used Rodmell, Tyrian Plum and Old Violet.
And Old Violet. All beautiful words. And there are other words like... aubergine or eggplant.
Yeah.
Beautiful, beautiful deep colour. Plum, which I'm using for Tyrian Plum.
Blackberry.
Lavender. Oh, lavender, yes. Beautiful.
I mean, they're much more... they sound nicer.
Yeah.
And they conjure up images that are more beautiful.
Yeah, yeah.
Purple is not...
Purple, I don't know why, it has just a nasty sound.
No, but it's an essential colour to have in a range.
Yeah. And yes, it is. It really is. And used beautifully, it can be amazing. Mm-hmm. From being a sort of neutral to being something very elegant. And some of the best designers have used it. Mm-hmm. It's often used by artists because they realise its value. And so that's where we start with. And that's Rodmell, which is... my Charleston collection. So I did a Charleston collection, of which Rodmell is one of them.
Are we talking about Charleston in the States or a different Charleston for those people that might not know about it?
So Charleston is an amazing house in England, in the south of England. Mm-hmm. And it's called Charleston Farmhouse, and it was lived in by a lot of artists and designers, all sorts of interesting people.
The Bloomsbury Group.
The Bloomsbury Group, exactly. And they painted everything. They painted furniture and walls and all sorts. You visited there.
I have a few times, and it is one of the most inspiring places. Absolutely.
Yeah. Very inspiring for artists and painters of all sorts. So I did a collection with them and made this colour because I went round the house and you see it everywhere. And you would never go into the house and go, oh, it's full of purple. It's a very subtle colour, and that's why I think it's really, really interesting, and it's beautiful. Mm-hmm. And it's used with other colours to enhance. So I think you've got some photographs to be able to show.
Absolutely, yeah. Rodmell which is your colour, one of the purple colours, is a very beautiful colour. Mm. It's sophisticated. It's fairly muted, I think.
Yeah.
But how would you describe Rodmell as a colour?
I would agree with you that it's fairly muted because I think one of the problems with purple is that it's often very bright, very bright indeed. And purple, that makes you go...
Well, I've been looking at I Googled purple in marketing and branding. And there are some really famous names that use purple in their marketing. And most of them are very, very, very vivid.
Yes.
Which I think probably puts people off because it would be a very hard colour to use in your interior that's so strong. I find personally a strong pink much easier to use in an interior than a strong purple. or garish purple, maybe. But Rodmell, we're here now. You've got to convince people that purple is not scary. It can work so well if you get the right shades.
I also want to talk about people. There's a certain type of person, and it's a bit of a hippie thing, that purple is hugely popular. And again, purple can be used by hippies fantastically, or you could be dressed head to toe in purple, and it just, oh my goodness, it's just too much. And I think it's sometimes a colour that people use to say, hello, I'm different.
Yes, I wear purple. Bright purple.
Vinny, who does all our, who's here with us, his mum loves purple, and she's a very elegant and beautifully dressed lady. So there we are. It's not a terrible colour.
No.
And I have a friend who does wear purple, and again, she doesn't wear it because she wants to be outrageous. She just wears it. Bit of a hippie, but it's fabulous. So I am here to tell people that it can be many, many things. It can be extremely elegant. So it's thought of as sort of majestic and all of that things. We'll go on to that later. But I'll start with Rodmell as being a bit of a naughty colour. Ooh. It's arty. It's, and it's a little tiny bit outrageous. So that's one element. And that's when I like Rodmell, because I think if you look, it's just beautiful with other colours. And I think it's one colour that needs other colours really, really importantly. I mean, I don't think I could do a room which is just purple.
No.
Or even just all
spoken about the white room, but I can't imagine a purple room.
Yeah. Not Rodmell, not that sort of purple. It needs other colours like blues and greys and whites and oranges to give it that, and gold, to give it something that will give it some sort of depth. So if you look at all the Rodmell pictures, and it goes with certain sort of pinks, because you lighten Rodmell, you get a really, really lovely colour. Remember, my colours don't have black in them. So my Rodmell has got some orange in it. So my Rodmell will work very, very well with colours which are slightly yellowy. So old ochre looks beautiful. And Versailles looks beautiful because Versailles is yellowy but slightly greeny. It also looks wonderful with sort of olives or pale olives. And so it's a soft colour. And you were talking about how you've just worked it with, I've just done some samples here in front of us. And it's worked two colours here, one with Frida Blue.
Absolutely.
And Frida Blue works really well with it because Frida Blue is a red purple, it's a red blue rather, and Rodmell is a bluish purple. Yeah. So they work very, very nicely together. It's pretty much of a mid purple, but I've slightly greyed it.
On the piece that I've been working on with Frida and Rodmell, Versailles is in there as well.
There you are.
So, I've done that before this conversation. So,
yeah. No,
but it never ceases to amaze me how one colour can change when you put it up against another colour.
Yes.
So it looks it just takes on a whole new life. Yes. And I think that's so exciting with colours.
We should probably do at some point when we do these podcasts something about Itten. I've forgotten his first name, but he did loads of stuff about, here is blue with red around it. Here is blue with yellow around it. Here is blue or here is blue around yellow.
I think that would be a huge piece of work, but really interesting.
Well, it's exhausting after a while because you just go, yep, I get it. Colours change.
But it never ceases to amaze me. That's what I mean. I find it magical.
Yes,
it is. You think you found all the combinations and then you discover a different one and it is exciting. That's why we're doing what we're doing, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's why this is The Colourist.
This is.
But why is Rodmell naughty? Talk to me about the naughty side of Rodmell.
Well, I don't think it's naughty in itself. I think it's naughty in that people used it, like at Charleston, in a way that perhaps was a bit unconventional because, it's often used in paintings, but here it was being used on furniture. It was being used on walls. And there's if you look at the photographs we've got here, you'll see there's a wall with, and it's on paintings, and then it's on a little bowl, because they also made pottery.
Yes.
And you'll see it on there, and mixed with all sorts of stuff.
So it's sort of misplaced. They used it in places which
a bit surprising. Yeah. I mean, partly painting furniture, but just partly using purple in the everyday world, because it is still quite an unusual colour. And partly because it was probably at one point quite difficult to make. And there isn't a purple pigment, as it were. Well, there is, but not really. And so you would have to make it. You would always have to make it, probably.
And this is why we get so many variations of purple.
Well, yes. Although on the spectrum, there are very few. If you look on the colour circle, purple quickly becomes deep blue.
Yeah.
And it quickly becomes reddish and starts to become more burgundy. There isn't a big area.
But it's a colour that can, in our opinion, go very wrong. You can get the wrong shades of purple very easily.
Yes.
Which are not yours, obviously.
It can just
They're the right ones.
It just can look a bit. It can look a bit cheap.
Yes.
And just undiscerning. And so you've got to be a bit careful with it. It's complementary, which is very important. Is all the yellows, and of course, bright purple and bright yellow. Ugh, that's horrible.
Well, I remember this trend years and years and years ago where it was purple, yellow and grey is interior design schemes. It was the thing, Feature wall, purple. Grey, every other wall grey, yellow accent cushions, and it was very strong combination, and I think it's just not sophisticated.
You've got to be careful with it. So that's why when you get complementaries, you've got to make one rather deep and thoughtful, or deep and thoughtful colour, and then the opposite one needs to be lighter and brighter and cleaner. So what would happen is that the purple perhaps wouldn't be quite deep and strong or charming or greyed enough, and then they would use a too brighter yellow. Yes. So it's just getting that balance right.
But technically accurate. They're complementary colours. Yes. So somebody who might not know a lot about colour will know purple and yellow are complementary. Yeah. I'll go out and I'll buy that bright yellow cushion and that bright purple wallpaper and it should work. But why doesn't it? Well, because you just explained they're not quite the right shade.
And often, I mean, any like bright red, bright green complementaries, terrible, too horrible. Bright blue, bright orange complementaries, but really uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So this would be that you've got and there are very few purples and very few yellows. Yellow, like purple, suddenly becomes brown or becomes too green. So it's a small area. So you haven't got lots of choice. So that's why it's more difficult. But I will say one of the most beautiful rooms and shocking for me that I ever saw was a room. I was doing some decorating in a house and the room had been finished and it was in the most beautiful creamy ochre colour and a sort of lavender colour. And it was just beautiful. There are lots and lots of neutral in it as well.
But the ochre, the yellowness of ochre, that's the subtlety you're talking about. It's not a bright yellow and a bright purple. It is a wisp of yellow, which complements.
This was like a straw colour, a soft straw with some lavender. And if you can imagine those colours, they are so beautiful.
Really paired back. So it kind of goes back to adding white to your paints and toning it down, knocking it back.
There might have been even some tiny bits of quite strongish purple in the room because you knew it was purple and yellow, but you didn't go, oh my God, purple and yellow. You just thought, oh, it was just a blissful room. So I know, and that was been with me for years. And there was also, when I did my book, Colour and Decoration, I found a photograph. I never saw the room. And the designer is a dress designer, and I've now forgotten his name. But it was a room with purple and brown. Well, I couldn't work out what the colours were, in fact. And I think there was gold in the room as well. And for ages, I kept thinking the purple was brown until I found out it was actually purple.
Interesting.
And it was so beautiful. So it's in Colour and Decoration. I've got to find that.
We'll find it.
Yeah.
We'll pop it on the thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So how can you mentioned earlier hippie? It can be quite associated with as quite a hippie colour.
Yeah,
What do you mean by that?
Well, I mean that I suppose it gets, if you're not careful, it goes into sort of moons and stars and a bit, what's the sort of,
Bit Glastonbury?
Well, Americans won't understand what that means. What's the word? Mystical.
Yes, okay.
So it gets a bit mystical and that's not comfortable for everybody. What's another good word for it?
That's not mystical.
Well, that sort of area, but yeah, mystical.
Yeah.
So it becomes a bit of a cliche.
Right.
That's probably what we don't want. You don't want cliches. You want to be making something which is your own, and often used with other colours. And I think, getting away with not maybe too brighter colours. I don't know. In a way, there are no rules, but there are rules somehow. So I think that I love the way that in Charleston it's used with greens, some limey greens. You'll see in the pictures we're showing you, and some creams and all sorts of colours that absolutely make it phenomenal.
Come to life. Amazing.
To life, yeah.
So we've got Rodmell, Old Violet.
Old Violet, which I love, and that word violet, those beautiful violets with a deep green. I mean, that's how flowers are. There's a beautiful violet with a deep green, absolutely beautiful. And that is in some of the best interior design fabrics that you ever see. Some wonderful old Colfax and Fowler colours. And yes, it's a dreamy collection.
You describe it as a neutral almost, which I find really interesting.
Yes, so
Explain what you
love that. So Old Violet I use as a neutral. I don't always use, I've got a piece of furniture in this house where I've painted it Old Violet and I've put in some red to it, some burgundy rather, a bit of Emperor silk as well, I think, and then lined it with white. And nobody ever looks at that piece and goes, oh, you've painted it purple. It just seems to work in with everything. And inside, it's bright red Emperor silk. And I love that mix. I just love it. In fact, I have painted a piece recently, not in Old Violet, but in Tyrian Plum.
Well, this was my next question. So we've had Rodmell, Old Violet, and now the newest kid on the block, Tyrian Plum.
Tyrian Plum. And here is it, this piece with, it's all Tyrian Plum, which is a deep plummy purple. Tyrian, because Tyrian was the Roman colour for the emperor, only the emperor would wear.
So very special.
Very expensive. That's why he could wear it, because, I mean, apparently you had to get hundreds of thousands of these special mollusks, which you seashells,
and crushed them
and made it into
that's where the pigment came from.
And it was a pigment, but it would be a dye, so a fabric dye. But anyway, that's what they wore. So it's ever been sort of connected with something royal and gorgeous, and not royal, but regal or
powerful.
Powerful. The emperor would wear. The richest man on the block.
Yeah. So which colour did you put for the inside of this piece?
Inside, I did again Emperor Silk.
Which sort of follows on from the power and the
it does,
the strength,
Emperor
the
Silk.
Regal regality of it.
Again, Emperor Silk named because of it's a Chinese emperor, very rich colour, very expensive. Anyway, with that, I've put that with some green. I've mixed. You could mix Furl and Capability Green, but in the end, I just used Capability Green, and it looks brilliant. But I love all that because in Charleston they also use bits of green at Furl with it. Yeah, and they're just great mixtures, and burgundy. So all of that all together, it's a whole new palette, which is really stunning.
So Charleston forms a large influence and inspiration for Rodmell. Yes. Where else have you gained inspiration from for your purple range, if you like? Are there any artists or people who've used it which have kind of inspired?
Yes. Well, Another person around that era, and we've mentioned before in previous ones, is Cecil Beaton.
Yes, so links to the previous episode with the whites. Yeah.
Yes, and Edward James.
Yes, I want to talk about him. I love this.
Edward James is, I don't know why he's not more famous, because his work is extraordinary. So if you looked him,
I've got a photo in front of me now, which we will try and share with listeners.
What it looks like?
Yeah, it's the exterior of his house, which I believe is in Surrey or Sussex. Sussex. And it is purple. It's not a Rodmell purple, it's a purple. It's very bright. And the bit that I'm looking at has these kind of palm trees framing either side of the door, and the door is painted it looks like a pale pink, and it's shocking because you don't see many purple houses, especially houses which are much older, and more full of character, probably in the countryside, I'm imagining, and it just stands out.
So he's
for good or bad, it stands out.
For good or bad, but he is very, very extraordinary man. He was a very, very rich man. I don't know where the money came from, but he was extraordinarily rich, never had to work, but he was a great patron of the arts. And the arts he loved was really very surrealist. So he supported people like
Salvador Dali?
Salvador Dali, thank you. Salvador Dali of the big lips, the Mae West lips, which was a sofa in bright red lipstick. Bright red lipstick, it looked like bright red lipstick. In that house, he had that. He had, do you remember the photograph I showed you of the stairway, the steps? Yeah,
I mean, the interior is just as exciting and daring as the exterior, absolutely.
Yeah.
Not necessarily with purple, but with a whole host of other colours.
And it goes back to my idea of how all of this connects to a sort of surrealism and arty and a bit naughty and a bit crazy.
Well, there's definite links there to the Bloomsbury Group and Charleston, the naughtiness. Yeah. It's described here as a surrealist fantasy mansion, which I think is really cool. Because if you look at the interior images, it is very fantasy-based.
His sitting room at Westdean, which is his great house, the Purple House. I mean, there were so many amazing things in it. He made the staircase with, he got someone to walk up the stairs and he copied the feet.
I think it's inspired. Amazing. Wonderful idea.
And then in his sitting room, which he had the Mae West red sofa, he had on the walls padded pink, like a Chesterfield, but all over the walls.
Crazy. I mean, if that doesn't say scream fantasy, what does? I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah. So it's a bit surrealist, a bit weird, and all sorts of things. There's a load of other things.
But exciting.
That. Yeah.
Super exciting.
Yes. And some of the colours are quite out there. It does depend on the photograph that you see of Westdean. Some of the times the purple is really quite... not sure. And other times it actually looks quite okay. Early photography, of course, I don't think it's there anymore. I mean, the house is, but I don't think
it's a private residence, isn't it?
Well, I think it's used for training now. Okay. Westdean is a place where you can go and do workshops and things. In the hallway, there was a sort of Bargello type design. Quite mad. I think you would go a bit crazy with it. Stripes going up and down, waving up and down in various greens, with chairs with arms coming up out of them.
Crazy.
It's all a bit... Jean Cocteau was doing things like this as well. Anyway.
Completely maximalist as well.
Maximalist, yeah. The other thing about Edward James is that he built the most extraordinary place in Mexico, which I would love to go to, which was ridiculous buildings where there's staircases.
Yes, I've seen this.
Did you have a look at that?
Yes.
So staircases that went nowhere and staircases that went down and up and around and just mad buildings.
A bit like Escher.
A bit like Escher.
That's what suddenly sprung to mind.
Yes, no, it does look like that.
Yeah.
So he was an amazing man and loved purple. And that just seems to me that if you did use purple, he didn't use it everywhere, but he did use it, whereas a lot of people never use it.
No, well, it's quite a scary colour to use,
and
potentially.
I think it indicates people who do it, who are unusual, that, who've got a a way of looking
quirky
at
streak.
a quirky streak.
We like a quirky streak.
We do like
that's a hard thing to say, though, isn't it? So there's many influences there, but there's also an influence that we haven't really touched upon yet, which is a kind of Regal influence and links with the monarchy and Cecil Beaton.
Yes.
So talk about that whole other side of purple, which comes through in completely different ways. I suppose it links to...
Well, it does. They all link up.
The Emperor and...
knew each other. I mean, this sort of... Cecil Beaton was a designer of interiors. He did the Dorchester. He did all sorts of things for the royal family. Did all sorts of stuff. But he also did... theatre design. Mm-hmm. So there's, again, going back to our very first or second podcast about white, that's that drama and theatre, which interior design can be.
And bringing the excitement.
Excitement, exactly.
Yeah.
So Cecil Beaton did do some extraordinarily beautiful, and royal family as well, and working in Mustique. Mm-hmm. And so purple was used, and he was known for being quite extravagant himself and wearing purple suits.
Yes, why not? Eh? But even our monarchy today in the UK, purple. That's what comes to mind. It's a colour that's used in a lot of their
sash. I think there's a purple sash,
and their branding, is that the right word? I don't know. The way it's put out there into the world, purple is used on the commentary on the TV and the banners at the bottom. There's a lot of purple,
and that you realise then that you don't say, "Oh my God, purple."
No.
Oof.
You go,
you just
purple.
go, how beautiful. Yeah. So it works beautifully with gold, fantastically with gold. Purples, golds, all that rich, deep. And that's where we're getting into my Tyrian plum. And Tyrian plum would work with silvers, golds, metallics of all sorts, actually.
Because it's much stronger and richer than Rodmell.
Yes.
Rodmell would sit in the middle.
Yes.
Tyrian plum, the richer end. Old violet, the other end, the paler, softer end.
The grade end. Mm-hmm. So what it is that technically old violet has got more yellow in it or more orangey yellow in it. Mm-hmm. So it brings it down. It's sort of what you would call grey. It's got no black in it, but it's greyed by pushing it down with these sort of yellowy colours. And so there, all of that. So yellows and purples are opposite each other, but because you get the greeny yellows coming in, so olive, perfect with it.
A lovely mix.
And furl, beautiful with it. I mean, not huge amounts. Now there are some designers who say that every room should have purple. Now you said every room should have black. But there are some people...
People say everything.
Well, probably.
But that's interesting.
There are designers that say a little bit of purple works very well because it's got that, I suppose, almost. There are people who say that a design or a room needs something which doesn't work. It's slightly annoying.
A contradiction.
Perfection is not a good look. And so when everything matches, everything balances, it's got... it's a bit the hotel room, which is, it won't offend.
Oh, yes. I know, we've had this discussion before as well. I want something that won't offend.
Yes.
And you think, okay, why? Who's going to be offended by your choice of interiors?
By having something in your room which is slightly like, you may not even notice it. In fact, if it's good design, you won't notice it. Good design,
but subconsciously, it throws a spanner in the works.
It's a little bit of... it's a pearl in the oyster, isn't
That's
it?
the one, That's
so it makes it just work.
Yeah.
I don't know why I've got purple in this room.
I'm reflecting on my own home and I'm thinking, I know we don't have much purple.
Yeah.
But there might be subtle touches of a purple shade. But in terms of a strong purple colour, not a lot.
I now need some purple in this room.
I was thinking the same, right? What can I paint in Tyrian plum? Something. It's got to be done.
Well, Tyrian plum is going to be... I know you're going to love that. It's going to be
a fantastic colour.
Favourite colour.
It's going to be great.
I don't think you've used it yet, but you're about to, I think.
Not yet. I am about to. Absolutely. Yeah.
So, it's going to make everything different. And it works also, I forgot to say, it works with brown. Oh, I did talk about brown, didn't I? Yeah.
Well, we have spoken a lot about colour theory. Obviously, colour as a theme runs throughout this podcast. Yeah. That is a given. However, it's very hard to convey complementary colours. We can talk about it. And yes, it's very visual for people to kind of imagine that. But there might be some people who want to know more about your colour theory and how it all works. Where can they go? What can they do to educate themselves?
You are completely right, Tristan. So we do have I do a video on my YouTube channel, which is about colour and colour theory, and it explains everything. So go to my Annie Sloan page on YouTube, and you'll be able to find out.
I think that's really important.
Yeah.
It runs alongside it.
Yeah.
I think it's nice to have a little bit.
Well, you want to expand your thoughts and ideas as well. And you could be watching it and listening to this at the same time, or looking and seeing. You can turn the sound off on the YouTube channel.
No. But that pretty much wraps up another episode. That is episode 3. We've done 3 episodes so far. And as you said earlier, we're going to leap in time. So where are we going next? What are we doing next?
Transporting you to Sweden.
Oh, wonderful.
In the 18th century. Mm-hmm. Do you want to go?
I was going to say, should we go for a road trip just to see, get some inspiration? I think we should.
Sweden is absolutely brilliant. It was one of my earliest inspirations.
Okay.
About colour. It is phenomenal.
And a different period in time as well.
18th century, so it's a different look altogether. So we're going to leave the 20th century.
Mm-hmm. For now.
For now. Yes, we're going to go back.
But as always, each episode will have a focus of one of your colours. It will always link it to a colour or a series of colours from the range.
Yeah. And so we'll do several in this next 18th century period.
Excellent. Well, I also think at this point, we've done 3 episodes, and I think it's really a good opportunity to speak to the listeners directly and say, we would like to hear from you. So if you have questions on any of the things we've spoken about, or if you've got suggestions and things you'd like to hear more about, or ideas for future episodes, that would be wonderful. And as always, the best way to contact Annie and me is on Instagram. Yep. Annie Sloan Instagram and Doghead Designs. Yep. Annie Sloan Instagram, obviously Annie. Mine is Doghead Designs, which is a bit weirder.
Anything you want to, if you want to get some paint or anything you want to go to, my links are on my page, my Instagram page, so you can buy directly, or you can go to your local stockists, or you can go to our website or wherever you get this wonderful paint.
Well, I think everybody now needs to go out and paint something purple.
Oh, I do.
I hope it's given people the confidence to use purple.
So, yeah. And whether you want to just not call it that, but you want to call it old violet or plum or blackberry or whatever, aubergine, eggplant, all of those lovely names, which do inspire sort of rather beautiful colours.
Absolutely. But if you do that, let us know. Send us pictures. We would love to see them and talk about them, because Tyrian Plum's new, so we need to see some pieces. I want to see
everybody's pieces. That would be amazing.
Awesome. Right. Well, we will see you next time for episode 4 and a whole new topic and a new era. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you. Bye-bye.